Okay, we're gonna try this again. Good morning.
Good morning.
That is so much nicer, thank you. On behalf of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus, Ohio, welcome to our Sunday service. I am Deborah Gray Boyd, and I'm a member of this congregation and a longtime volunteer. I also am part of the Anti-Racist Allies group. We gather in the homelands of the Oneida, the Hopewell, the Wyandotte, the Miami, the Seneca, and the Cuyahoga peoples. Their stolen ancestral homes. Let us take a moment of silence together to express our gratitude and appreciation for the connections of Indigenous people to this place that we now share with them. Today, we will be focusing on Juneteenth, something that I didn't know about until I was well into my adulthood, both celebrating it and considering what this holiday calls us to do as a congregation. Also, to all who parent, protect, and provide for the younger generations, happy Father's Day. Amanda will be leading us in our opening hymn. The words will appear on the screen. It is 149 in our gray hymnal. Please rise as you are willing and able to sing this unofficial anthem of Black Americans.
Ring with the Wait, we can try that one more time. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Amanda Hayes, and it is my pleasure to serve as your Justice Coordinator, and my pronouns are she, her. Wow, was this ever a week with those power outages? I'm sure that this was a rough week for some of you, and I know it was stressful for me too. It is so good to see all of you. It is so good to be here together with air conditioning and lights and everything. Please let us know that you are here today by filling out our check-in form online or at the greeter's stand. This simple act helps us to maintain connections within our congregation. You can access a digital order of service, the Joys and Sorrows form, and our donation page by scanning the QR code, or by visiting firstuucolumbus.org/Sunday. We also have paper Joys and Sorrows cards, which you can submit at the candle table in the back of the sanctuary. Don't forget that this week is our Unitarian Universalist General Assembly in person in Portland, Oregon, and also online. We encourage you to register, but even if you don't, you can still watch the general sessions, the Sunday morning worship, which isn't morning because it's in Portland, the service of the living tradition, and the Synergy Bridging worship live and on demand. Check out Friday News for more information. And I would now like to invite our children who would like to help light our chalice by bringing in the light to meet Jay McNeil. Where are you, Jay? There's Jay. If anyone would like to come with Jay. To go to the back of the sanctuary. They will go out into the welcome hall to prepare and return in just a few minutes. So let us center ourselves as we listen to this morning's prelude.
Thank you, Nathan. Good morning, all. My name is Tamara Parson, and I serve here at First UU as your Black, Indigenous, and People of Color Network Coordinator, and my pronouns are she, they. We'd like to welcome our children to now bring in the light. We have an excerpt from The Hill We Climb by the amazing Amanda Gorman, Youth Poet Laureate. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. And yet, the dawn is ours before we know it. Somehow, we do it. Somehow, we weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country in a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. That is the promise to Glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare. It's because American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be. A country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation, become the future. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain, if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and changes our children's birthright. So let us leave a country better than the one we were left. Every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. And every known nook of our country, every known nook of our nation and every corner called our country, our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade of flame and unafraid. The new dawn balloons as we free it, for there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it. If only we're brave enough to be it. And our chalice is lit. Thank you. We are currently putting together Sunday school teaching teams for next year, so please email Amber at firstuucolumbus.org to get involved. Today, our time for all ages, we will have a video about Juneteenth, which is the holiday today, June 19th. That is the day in 1865 when Black enslaved people in the United States found out that they were free because of the Emancipation Proclamation. Emancipation is just a fancy word for freedom, and proclamation is just a fancy word for an announcement. So here's our video.
Oh, yeah. Do you know the story of Juneteenth? When the enslaved found out that they were free. 2 years after 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation.
Yeah. Freedom. What does it mean to be free? Are you born with it? Is it God-given? Or is there a cost to be free? The Constitution said we were 3/5 human. How can it be democracy built on stolen land? Freedom is a right, not a privilege. Freedom from false restrictions. Skin color, birthplace, respect the ways we're all different. Let's take it back about 100 years. Quick, let me paint this picture. America in the Civil War, no Marvel movie, this history. President Lincoln had a plan to end slavery only in the South. But black folks, when they heard about it, start spreading that word of mouth. Picked up arms and joined the Union to fight for their own freedom. The colored troops helped win the war, gave the proclamation new meaning, yeah. You better believe it.
Do you know the story of Juneteenth? When the enslaved found out that they were free. 2 years after 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation.
Justice. When have we seen it and known it? Who are the ones who have grown it? Took it from notion to showing what's up. Let's talk about soldiers who were free, risking their lives for people like me. All the camp folk they may never know. Took a lead that we all could follow. Following the call for what? Justice. Figured the land it was for the enslaved. When you think about this proclamation, the emancipation is knowing that we were the brave. 200,000 soldiers organizing, women and children home strategizing. Paper protests, learn to address the power of truth and the culture uprising.
Do you know the story of Juneteenth? When the enslaved found out that they were free. 2 years after 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation.
Can't stop that joy.
Freedom is not individual, it's collective.
Can't stop that joy.
Freedom is not individual, it's collective.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
Freedom is not individual, it's collective. Freedom is not individual. When you think about Juneteenth, remember how we freed ourselves, how we stayed prepared. We will prevail, cause we tipping scales, closing all the jails, and we will not fail.
You believe, you dream, you move, you serve. For those who pass for our culture, no one left behind, we can be sure. We stand, we rise, we on that joy ride. We stand, we rise, we on that joy ride. We stand, we rise, we on that joy ride. We on that joy ride.
Now you know the story of Juneteenth. When the last enslaved knew that they were free. We led ourselves to victory. Victory, victory.
It's a wonderful, wonderful video. In this video, you hear that some enslaved people finally learned that they were free on June 19th or Juneteenth, 1865. That was 2 years, 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation or the Freedom Announcement was signed in 1863 during the Civil War. It took 2 years for the news to reach some people because there was no internet or cars, so news had to come by horseback. It also took a long time because there were many white people who fought to keep the slavery of black people for as long as possible. The newly freed people were so excited to finally be free that they started the celebration of Juneteenth. 89 years after the Declaration of Independence said that everyone had the right to liberty, finally, our own country recognized that all people had the right to be free from slavery. For a long time, Juneteenth has been celebrated mostly by Black people, but it is now a national holiday. I now invite the congregation to remain seated and to form a sheltering arc of love as we sing our young people back to their families and out to their classes.
Juneteenth, June 19th, 1865. 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, Union troops finally brought it to Texas. In other slave states, as Union troops had marched and battled, they had spread the word of the proclamation. In response, many enslaved Black people risked it all to make it behind Union lines and join the fight. It was only with the help of these courageous and visionary Black soldiers, who were typically assigned the toughest, least desirable tasks, that the Union Army won the Civil War and slavery became illegal throughout the United States. Texas, though a slave state, had avoided much of the fighting and presence of Union troops, and so many of those enslaved in Texas had not yet even heard about the proclamation. But when the war ended, Union troops arrived in Galveston and shared the news. You are free! In 1866, on the 1-year anniversary, Black Texans celebrated a Jubilee Day, which eventually became known as Juneteenth. They rejoiced in the news of their new freedom with music, food, and prayer. And as the Great Migration drew Black people from Texas and other southern states to cities throughout the North, the Juneteenth tradition spread. Texas made Juneteenth an official holiday in 1979, and other states followed suit until, in 2021, it became a national holiday. As Americans, when we think about holidays that celebrate freedom, the 4th of July is often what comes to mind. After all, in 1776 was when our founders signed the Declaration of Independence that announced our freedom as a country from the British Empire. Some would argue that the 4th of July is a holiday for all Americans, while Juneteenth is really only relevant for Black Americans, especially with roots in Texas. I actually only learned about Juneteenth a few years ago, but from what I've learned of it in that time, I beg to differ. The 4th of July might mark the freedom of the United States from Britain, but those who signed under the words, "all men are created equal," really meant men and didn't really mean all. Many were enslavers who fully intended to continue regarding human beings as their property, and all of them were owners of stolen land. While in some ways it was an exciting step forward for democracy and freedom, the way that our country was born, steeped in injustice and oppression, is also deeply tragic. Juneteenth, on the other hand, celebrates a burgeoning recognition of freedom and human rights for all people within the United States. Juneteenth celebrates a radical shift in our culture from a belief that human beings could be owned to a knowledge that all people deserve freedom. And although Juneteenth was created by and for Black people, and people of other races should take care not to culturally appropriate Juneteenth, Juneteenth is still important for everyone. I would argue more important than the 4th of July. The modern conception of race was invented in the British colonies for the purpose of preventing servants of European descent and indentured servants of African descent from working together. Why? Because the land-owning class who held workers in debt bondage were afraid that together, workers had the power to demand freedom. Emancipation began to break down that racial separation between Black and white because now no one could be subjected to generational slavery. And it happened because Black and white soldiers found a way to fight beside one another until no one was left in slavery. None of us are free until we're all free. Racism harms Black, Indigenous, and people of color the most, but it harms all of us. It is a spiritual and relational wound in our society that we still have so much work to heal. And that healing work is all of our work. Juneteenth speaks of freedom, healing, and love to all of us. Nathan. Oh, and now we have our special music. Thank you.
Good morning, all my friends. Here's your friendly announcer. I have some serious news to pass on to everybody. What I'm about to say could mean the world's disaster. Could change your joy and laughter to tears and pain. But love's in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away. Hate's going round, breaking many hearts. Stop it, please, before it's gone too far. The force of evil plans to make you its possession, and it will if we let it destroy everybody. We all must take precautionary measures. If love and peace you treasure, then you'll hear me when I say that love's in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away. Hate's going round, breaking many hearts. Stop it, please, before it's gone too far. Oh, love's in need of love today.
Thank you, Nathan. That was Love's in Need of Love Today by Stevie Wonder, performed by our very own Nathan Ham. Apologies for my clumsy transition there. So, I still can't really get over the power outages this week. comfortable, would you raise your hand if your power was out at some point this week? Oh my goodness. I know for me, besides being incredibly frustrating and concerning, it has been an experiential lesson in climate change and climate justice. We've known for a long time now that there will be more intense storms. We've known for a long time now that there will be more intense heat. And yet so many of us received this object lesson in how our infrastructure was not prepared for this week, and how those who are already most vulnerable are frequently the most impacted. I looked at the dispatch's data about which zip codes had the most outages. And it's true that some predominantly wealthy neighborhoods also had power outages, but no matter how you slice the data, lower income zip codes had more outages. In response to questions from the NAACP, AEP assures us that they just did what they had to do to preserve the grid in the middle of an emergency. But even if so, why did we get to that point? Why was it that the power lines in lower income zip codes were more likely to overload? Could it be that due to a lack of city investment in tree cover, those zip codes were actually hotter and required more energy to keep their residents cool? Could it be that those lines haven't been maintained as diligently as lines in other zip codes? I wasn't able to find a racial analysis of these numbers, but due to many historical injustices, people of color are more likely to live in lower income zip codes in our city. So, intentional or unintentional, this outage had a classist impact and had a racist impact. And it is really hard to acknowledge racist impact, to use that word, racist. Not just in the case of these power outages. What about the question of why First UU is not very racially diverse, despite our aspiration to engage diversity? Could the actions and habits of white First UUers have a racist impact that makes this community feel less welcoming to people of color? It's hard even to ask the question. Partly, it's hard to talk about racist impact because we weren't taught the full history of how we got to this point. In grade school, I was sold this myth that the Emancipation Proclamation resolved slavery, even though actually it took troops physically going to Texas to end slavery there, and soon after, Jim Crow laws and other racist policies soon returned many Black people to a situation nearly as dire as slavery. Similarly, you may have heard of famous white Unitarian and Universalist ministers like Channing and Ballou, but perhaps not of Eugene Sparrow. Sparrow was a Harvard seminary-educated Black Unitarian. Sparrow went to Harvard to become a Unitarian minister, but no Unitarian church would hire him, not for any staff position at all, throughout his entire career. When we don't know the racist history that got us here, it can be easy to believe that any given inequity is just a random accident. So that's part of what's hard. But also, it's hard to talk about racist impact because we've learned that racists are the bad guys, right? The racists are the Ku Klux Klan, the racists are the Nazis, racists are the enslavers. They're evil, and in the end, the good guys take them down. And we want to be the good guys, right? Racist has become an insult, which makes it really hard to use it as a factual descriptor of a given action that negatively impacts people of color. In the terminology of Brené Brown, to be racist has become shameful. The feeling that I am wrong as a person. If racism is shameful, whenever a potentially racist act occurs, we are stuck in a terrible dilemma between denial and self-hatred. Surely this person I respect can't be racist. Surely this congregation I love can't be racist. Surely I can't be racist. Oh no, but what if we are? But what if, holding tightly to our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we could let go of that shame? If racist impact could instead provoke what Brown calls guilt, the feeling that I have done something wrong rather than I am wrong. While shame sticks us in this terrible dilemma, guilt actually motivates us to make amends, to return to our shared covenant and right relationship. To be brutally honest, while working on this service, I wrestled with some shame. It seems like every time I try to do anti-racist work, I make a mistake that has a racist impact. And so I was sure that I would make a mistake somewhere in this service, and I think probably I have. If nothing else, I am a white person planning a service about Juneteenth, which could be culturally appropriative or racist in and of itself. I was thinking to myself late at night, what if I do this wrong again? Why am I doing this work? Maybe I just am wrong. And I had to remind myself that even if I struggle and make mistakes, I am still good inside. I can apologize, I can do better next time. And the mistakes that I've made while taking the risk of trying to talk about race and racism, which is really, really hard, haven't made me a bad person. In fact, they've helped me to learn. Juneteenth, by its very nature of celebrating a joyful moment in Black history that many people until just recently were totally unaware of, calls us to celebrate the freedom and justice that our ancestors and our spiritual ancestors worked to create for us. And it also calls us to really dig into the racial disparities that we see around us today and ask where they came from and what is our work to do to become good ancestors for those who follow us. So, as a part of this Juneteenth service, I'd like to share a couple of videos with you about racial microaggressions. A racial microaggression is a subtle but offensive comment or action directed at a person of color that is often unintentional or unconsciously reinforces a stereotype, such as, quote, "I don't see you as black," which is supposed to be a compliment. I believe that microaggressions are one way that many of us, white first UUers, can unintentionally create a less welcoming church culture. So, let's watch the videos.
Wait a minute, you don't listen to Taylor Swift?
No.
Girl, I am like whiter than you.
Was it hard to grow up in the suburbs? It must have been really boring with no police activity or anything.
Your hair is amazing. You know, it's kind of like my golden retriever. It's so limp and lifeless. Like, how do you do that?
Oh, wow.
Your name is so easy to spell and pronounce. Was it like really easy to get a job?
Check out these photos of me volunteering at an orphanage in Europe. Those little white boys and girls, they were so inspiring.
Oh, wow. No, you don't sound like a dumb hick at all. That's so cool.
You are so pretty for a white girl.
It's really sad when Romney lost, huh? Good old Mitt. Couldn't do it. Could not do it.
You were dating a white guy. Does he have like a really tiny penis?
Oh, you must listen to that rural music, right?
You know who you look just like? Who? Jennifer Lawrence?
So we just saw Titanic. How are you dealing? I had no idea your people had it so hard.
Your skin is so pale. Can I touch it?
You know, I was just talking about that with my friend Jeremy. He's white too. So.
I don't even think of you as white. I don't. I really don't. Wow. So you have to wear sunscreen? That is so crazy.
Hey, I'm from out of town. Can you help me find some meth? What do you mean you don't listen to Macklemore? You're white.
I've always heard that white girls are like super boring in bed.
Oh, hey.
Yo, what's up, my crack? Whoa. Oh, no, man, it's cool. You know, I can say it. My girlfriend's white.
Yeah, not cool, man.
Oh, okay, my bad, Daniel. My bad.
It's crack.
Hi there.
Hi.
Nice day, huh?
Yeah, finally, right?
Where are you from? Your English is perfect.
San Diego. We speak English there.
Oh, no. Where are you from?
Well, I was born in Orange County, but I never actually lived there.
I mean before that.
Before I was born.
Yeah, like, where are your people from?
Well, my great-grandma was from Seoul.
Korean. I knew it. I was like, she's either Japanese or Korean, but I was leaning more towards Korean.
Amazing.
Yeah. Hamshasina. There's a really good teriyaki barbecue place near my apartment. So I actually really like kimchi.
Cool. What about you? Where are you from?
San Francisco.
But where are you from?
Oh, I'm just American.
Really? You're Native American?
No, just regular American. Oh, well, I guess my grandparents are from England.
Oh, well. Hello, Governor! What's all this then? Top of the morning to you. Let's get a small tea. Double, toil and trouble. Mind the gap, beware Jack the Ripper. Bloody hell! Pip, pip, cheerio! I think your people's fish and chips are amazing.
You're weird.
Really? I'm weird? Must be a Korean thing.
If you like these videos, you can, the address for them on YouTube is in your service sheet, so feel free to support these creators. Thank you for watching these videos with me. I hope they gave you something to ponder. Humor can be great for getting at things that are really tricky to talk about directly. If you would like to learn more about racial microaggressions and spend some time reflecting together about where we might have noticed them in our own lives, we actually have a short workshop after the service right here in the worship center. It will start at 11:30 and end by 12:30, just in time for lunch, plus I hear there are snacks. This training is for both Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and for white people, and masks are required. I encourage you to come even if you think it might feel uncomfortable, but not if engaging with this topic today feels like it will be harmful for you. Reflecting about racial microaggressions and other aspects of anti-racism is really tricky, hard work, but it's also really important to us as a congregation. It's high in the priority that our board sets, and that's because it's something that First UUers have expressed as something that you care deeply about. Our Anti-Racist Allies group has recently learned from our archives team that throughout our history as a church, we have repeatedly found ways to engage with this issue in many different ways. But it seems that we don't have a record of engaging with anti-racism in a consistent, intentional, and long-term way. And so that is what we are trying to work for. We are kicking off First UU's new anti-racist program called Living the Pledge this fall. Living the Pledge workshops are in-depth workshops that delve into various aspects of anti-racism work. Developed by the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Richmond, Virginia, Living the Pledge will now be First UU's own anti-racist program. There will be 3 trainings next church year on a variety of days and times, in person, virtual, to allow for the widest range of First UUers to engage as possible. We hope to continue offering this training at regular intervals in the future and to support those who go through this training to find their own part in re-examining how we do church together. You can learn more and sign up for Living the Pledge through our registration page on our website. There is a link and a QR code in your order of service, as well as in our online Sunday check-in page. And you can also learn more and sign up at the jam table in Beach Hall after the service. So I thank you all for engaging in this difficult and challenging work with me. So may it be.
It is now time for our offering. Regardless of what you are able to give, we appreciate your generosity and your presence here. During the month of June, we are sharing our offering plate with Kaleidoscope Youth Center. Your gifts build a better church and a better world. Kaleidoscope was founded in 1994 and remains the largest and longest-running organization in Ohio, solely dedicated to supporting queer youth. They provide a safer space, leadership opportunities, and programming so that youth are empowered to explore who they are and become their confident, truest selves. Your generous gifts will now be greatly received. Your gifts build a better church and a better world for us all. Thank you.
I'll follow.
Freedom looks good on you, choir. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Reverend Linda Smith, and I am serving as your Minister of Pastoral Care, and my pronouns are she, her. For our caring meditation, I offer words of Layla F. Saad in her book, Me and White Supremacy. I want to speak to the good ancestor who lies within you, the person inside you with questions about dismantling white supremacy. Knowing you are a part of the problem and that you are simultaneously also part of the answer. There is great power and responsibility in that knowledge, but knowledge without action is meaningless. No matter who you are, you have the power to influence change in the world. You can continue to unconsciously allow white supremacy to use you as it used your ancestors, to cause an impact of harm and marginalization to Black, Indigenous people of color. Or you can intentionally choose to disrupt and dismantle white supremacy within yourself and your communities. The moment is now. Help change the world, become a good ancestor. And to close this meditation, the words of Octavia Butler, the parable of talents. To shape God with wisdom and forethought, to benefit your world, your people, your life. Consider consequences. Minimize harm. Ask questions. Seek answers. Learn, teach. Blessed be. And now I'd like to invite our pastoral listeners, Sylvia Howe and Kathleen Fowler, to share this week's caring cards and the joys and sorrows submitted this morning. I'm going to start with one caring card for Meredith Farmer and her family. Meredith is one of our most senior members. She was admitted to Mount Carmel East Hospital 2 days ago. She had a brain hemorrhage and is in the neuro ICU. Please keep Meredith and her family in your thoughts and prayers. She was able to get up and walk with a walker yesterday, and she's also speaking a little bit, which are really good signs. We'll give you further updates. And now, our pastoral listeners.
I am Sylvia Howe. My pronouns are she, her. We have one that came in this morning from Ethos, I. This person is currently battling COVID and would like to be remembered in our thoughts and prayers.
And I'm Kathleen Fowler, and my pronouns are she, her. This morning, this one came in. It's from Ashley, and her concern is for the families of the Pulse nightclub shooting. Prayers for the families of the nightclub shooting victims, as today marks the 6 years. We will fight for them and for the right to love.
And send healing and caring thoughts to Al Smythe on the first year anniversary of his father's death last Father's Day. And we send healing thoughts and warm wishes to Joanne St. Clair. Joanne, longtime member of this church, now living in Virginia, had a recent extensive surgery for cancer of the jaw. She will move to rehab soon and faces a long recovery. Cards are welcome. Please contact Kathy O'Neill right here in this congregation for details. We encourage you to visit the caring table in Beach Hall after the service to sign these caring cards, whether or not you know the people. This longtime tradition of signing cards in person is an important outreach to members and friends. Even if there's no caring cards to sign, you can stop and say hello, but this morning we do have caring cards. May we hold these joys and sorrows and all those yet unspoken gently in our hearts. I will ring our temple bell, and I invite you to take a moment of shared silence to reflect, imagine, pray, or simply breathe. I'll ring the bell a second time to continue our service.
Again, everyone is invited to the racial microaggression workshop that will be here in the worship center after the service, and to sign up for a session of Living the Pledge. Thank you all for being here, being present, listening, and thoughtfully reflecting, as I know you always do. I look forward to hearing about your thoughts and feelings on this topic. To fathers, parents, and all who nurture, protect, and provide for the next generation, happy Father's Day. And to everyone, happy Juneteenth. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and sing number 1035, Freedom is Coming, in our teal hymnal. The choir will lead us in singing, and the lyrics will also be on the screen. Oh, that isn't happening? I'm sorry. The choir is here with us and will help us because they are awesome singers. Excuse me.
You can be seated. If you are online, I invite you to bring your chalice closer to extinguish the flame together. If you're here in person after the postlude, you're welcome to Beach Hall for coffee and conversation. I invite you to join me in speaking our vision statement as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of vision. As we go forth, let us heal and transform ourselves and our world through reason and love. Our flame is extinguished, but our light lives on in our hearts and our lives. Please remain seated as Nathan plays the postlude, and we look forward to seeing you in coffee hour. Thank you.